It was quite the journey to get to this video, as originally this week I was planning on releasing Fallout 4, but every enemy is random and legendary. Unfortunately, since I can't have nice things, by the time I got to the halfway point of that run, the mods caused my save file to implode on itself. No matter what I did, I couldn't recover the save, so I had to drop that run. After that, I tried to film several videos, and none of them were just going any way that I liked. And to cap off that fantastic week, I got sick. Well, coming down with a fever seemed to be a blessing in disguise, as it actually gave me the idea for this run, as today we aim to find out, can you beat Skyrim with vomit? For those of you who don't know, there is a spell in the game that lets you vomit on your enemies. Well, not quite. The reason most people don't know about this spell is because the player actually never gains access to it. It is technically under the shout category, and it is only used by the afflicted enemies. Despite being partially functional for the player, there's no way for you to obtain it. That is, not without the power of cheats. Thanks to the cheat room mod, I'm able to gain access to this shout, and today I'm going to be using this shout and only this shout to beat Skyrim. Anyways, I think I've yapped for far too long. Let's get into the run. Starting off, I make my character a female Nord. I chose Nord because I'm a bit basic, and I choose a female character so I could get bonus damage from the Agent of Dibella perk later. When Hadvar asks me my name, I just make a face at him in order to repress the vomit gurgling in my character's stomach. Also, I'm gonna get this out of the way right now, my body mods were doing something funky today, as every single female character in Skyrim looked like they were ambushed by a rogue plastic surgeon. If I'm being completely honest, at this point I was way too sick to even bother messing with the mods, so we're just gonna have to live with it for now. The usual song and dance in Helgen plays out, I almost get beheaded, Johnny plot device shows up, and it's time to start the run. As soon as Hadvar cuts my hands free, I use the cheat spell to enter the cheat room, and immediately learn every shout available. According to cheat room, this actually will break your game, but I never actually felt the effects of this. Learning all the shouts this way gives you access to not only every base shout in the game, but also the ones enemies have access to. This includes Vile Vapor, which is the vomit attack. Like most shouts, Vile Vapor has 3 stages, with all 3 of them being basically identical. The main difference is fully charging it cuts the cooldown time into pieces, so you could spam it relatively quickly. I say relatively because you still have to go through the whole shout animation. I decided I'd be playing mostly in third person today, as it's the easiest way to see the shout in action. As for the shout's damage, it's actually really good for right now. It absolutely tears through humanoid enemies, and if you're quick enough with it, you could take down multiple enemies with a single spray of vomit. That being said, there's virtually no way to boost its damage, so I can imagine this is gonna fall off eventually. After power puking my way through Helgen, I immediately run off to Bleak Falls as there's something I absolutely need to test. The bandits there are pushovers, but they weren't my target. The thing I was fearing was Draugr. I was hoping that maybe Vile Vapor did mixed physical and poison damage, but no, it turns out it does pure poison damage, which means any undead type enemies are completely immune to it. Skyrim does have some forced encounters with Draugr, so we're just gonna have to get a bit creative for those. At least Bleak Falls is the first real dungeon that the player has to go to, so it's relatively easy to run through all of the Draugr. The issue is, you cannot run past the Draugr at the end of the tunnel, that being the Overlord who holds the Dragonstone. Luckily, I had a plan for him, so as soon as I got his attention by sniffing the funny word on the wall, I ran my butt back to the beginning of the dungeon and let him follow me into the nearby traps. With the Dragonstone in hand, I march my butt off to Whiterun to tell Balgruuf that he's gonna die. I then hand the stone to Farengar, and immediately the watchtower is attacked. While the others chatted up about the dragon, I paint the walls green, before joining Irilith at the watchtower. My damage on the dragon wasn't really great. Okay, who am I kidding? It was freaking terrible. I don't know if dragons have high poison resist, or maybe he just had a lot of health. Either way, I wasn't doing enough damage to actually take him out on my own, and the Whiterun guards had to step in. They were able to easily step up to the task, proving that they are in fact the true Dragonborn. That being said, I still absorb the soul because the plot demands it. I am then summoned to the retirement home, where I go and bully all the old men. This is also the point that I learned that learning all the shouts early doesn't actually break the game. You may not be able to see it, but I was practically jumping for joy. Well, not really, but I did at least swing my arm in the air for a bit. Before I went off to Usengrav and went and dealt with the Draugr there, I went and vomited on a ghost to get the sweetest armor on this side of Skyrim. For some reason, the ghost in Kirstag runes doesn't really work like any other ghost in the game, in that I don't think it's a true undead enemy, so poison actually works on it. It also drops a full set of Ancient Nord armor if you didn't know. I figured heavy armor would be the way to go this playthrough, simply because I'd need to be tanking a lot of hits, especially against enemies like dragons where I really wasn't able to hurt them. That being said, you are lying and you know it if you don't admit that this armor looks pretty fly. Okay, that was enough procrastinating for now, it's off to Ustengrav. As you can imagine, the Draugr don't make things easy, but still I play Elden Ring Night Rain, so I have a PhD in running away from my problems. At the end of the dungeon, I pick up the funny-shaped horn, and I take it to everyone's least favorite Breton in Skyrim, Delphine. Delphino Plaza does the usual bullcrap, and this time I decide to show her exactly how I feel about her segment in the game. With Delphine, I then watch the Miracle of Life before swiftly snuffing said miracle out. By the way, is it just me, or during this dialogue, does Alduin sound like Great Tiger from Punch-Out? Like seriously, as soon as he started talking, I violently began to shift left from right, because I was afraid I got thrown back into the world's most stressful game of Simon. After Salakanir is shoved right back into the grave he crawled out of, it's time for the Thalmor embassy, which just means that I got this guy drunk again and proceeded to murder a bunch of Thalmor. This is also where I had my first level up, so that was neat. It was also at this point in the game that my damage seriously began to drop off, and you could probably tell by just how little I'm doing to the Thalmor. Like, they don't actually have any more resistance than the average bandit. The issue is they're just starting to get more health. After I finished up business with the Thalmor, I realized my damage was falling off, so I decided to do everything I could to rectify that right now. I started by doing the entire first half of the Companion's questline, so I could gain access to the werewolf transformation. This included doing a lot of busy work for the Companions, and I do mean busy work. I was quite literally delivering their shields and polishing their swords. Making nice with the Companions of course means that I have to go through another Draugr-infested tomb, because every other quest in Skyrim makes you do that. Unfortunately, this time the Draugr have learned from their mistakes, as they lock me in a room with them, a room that doesn't have traps. That just means I have to rely on Farkas, who accompanies you on this quest. The main issue was that when Farkas got knocked down, he would get back up with 1 HP, meaning that he usually would only get 1, maybe 2 attacks in, before getting knocked down again. I would then have to wait a good minute before he'd get up again, and then he'd get knocked back down in just a couple seconds. Oh well, I suppose the thumbnail wasn't going to draw itself. After enough time to make a passable YouTube thumbnail, Farkas finishes up with the Draugr, and I'm free to finally move on with my life. With the Companions, I drink the funny red-flavored vomit, and guess what? It's werewolf time, baby! Except not really. Originally, I was gonna ditch the Companions here, but unfortunately, Aela is very clingy, and if you don't do her quest, she will literally follow you forever. I need her gone, so it looks like I'm dealing with the Silverhand too. I make it sound like it's hard. No, the Silverhand were piss easy. The main thing that got on my nerves was honestly Aela. I don't know, am I the only one here that really just hates Aela? I know that's an extremely unpopular opinion with Skyrim because people love Aela for some reason, but I despise her. She's stupid cocky, she never shuts up about the hunt or whatever, and the one thing that makes her unique is that she's supposed to be the only one proud of being a werewolf. That's cool and all, but she doesn't actually ever turn into a werewolf, so it doesn't freaking matter. Besides, if you are going to unlock her as a full-time follower, you have to do the entire Companion's questline, and if you're gonna go and do that, why not just take Farkas along? Not only is Farkas not a douche, but your character also has some history with him, and he's not on freaking rebound from his last boyfriend dying to some random bandits. Anyways, I easily dispatched the Silverhand, but then got lost in their base, eventually finding my way out, and I'm finally free of the Companions. With the power of Furry on my side, I fast travel back to Riverwood and isolate Faendale for a bit. Using Faendale as a deposit account, I use the infamous Infinite Shout glitch to equip these 5 Amulet of Talos that I got from vomiting on a woman. I was hoping by doing this glitch I would be able to spew out one continuous stream of vomit, giving my character some X-Men style power. Sadly, this is not the case, as again, Vile Vapor is technically a shout, so it follows the same rules of the shout. You cannot fire 60 unrelenting forces per second, so no vomit geysers for me today. I was a little bummed by this, but hey, progress is progress. At least with the Infinite Shout glitch, I'm now able to use the uncharged version of the spell, which is a little faster. I decided to test my damage by finally doing the Heart of Dibella quest, which just meant projectile vomiting on a few Forsworn. I was a little confused when I returned to the Temple of Dibella, and there were hired thugs waiting for me, but all became clear after I murdered them, and found out that they were in fact bought by Senna. Realizing I was no longer welcomed at the temple, I decided to make my way to the next best thing, the sewers. Yay, mandatory sewer segment that no one likes to talk about. At the sewers, I rescued a senile old man, who then tells the senile young woman that they need to go be senile somewhere else. Using my newfound lightning speed vomit, I cut my way through the Forsworn, and then cut my hand in one of the worst possible places. Grandpa and Grandma then hop off their meds for a bit, so please everybody keep quiet, and nobody tell Delphine that she's not actually holding a torch. I was almost ready to finish up the game, but then I realized I never actually picked up the Elder Scroll, so it's off to recruit another one of the Senile squad. I didn't actually bother going through any Dwarven runes, as I'm sure most of you probably realized by now, but Dwarven automatons are completely immune to poison. I just used the dagger trip to clip through the elevator and get to Blackreach early. After that is a short trot to the Elder Scroll, and then a longer trot to the Throat of the World. I used said Elder Scroll to trip balls, and then it's time for the fight with Alduin 1. Now damage has been pretty good up until this point, so how bad can this really be? The things I do for content. In all reality, something I find funny is a couple weeks ago if I made this video, I would have probably ranted on how terrible the damage was, and how unhappy I was and how miserable this fight was. But ever since I've done the butt slam video on Elden Ring and fought Malekith there, the bar has seriously changed. Fighting Alduin with vomit only was practically a vacation compared to that, so you're gonna be hearing no complaints from me. With Alduin finally turning tail and running back to Sovngarde, it's time for the Peace Council. What do you want me to say? At this point, I find the snot dripping from my nose far more entertaining than the Peace Council itself. The only interesting thing I have written in my notes that happened during the segment was that I was approached by Fallout New Vegas, who handed me the letter from a friend. The letter claimed that I had caused quite a disturbance using my Thum on the Throat of the World, so I can only assume whoever sent this letter was either Paarthurnax or Alduin, seeing as they were the only two living things within a mile-long radius. With the Peace Council finally wrapped up, I'm free to work with the only competent leader in Skyrim and trap a dragon. Poor Odahviing probably didn't expect the prophesied Dragonborn to be the lady who's constantly throwing up on everybody. I'm surprised he let my character ride him to Skuldafn, as that's the Skyrim equivalent of letting a person with the flu into your nice car. Speaking of Skuldafn, this was the last middle finger to this run, as the developers kinda just went, oops, all Draugr, and guess what, it's time for another match with way too many Draugr. On top of that, you're supposed to do puzzles throughout the entirety of Skuldafn, so that's especially delightful while you're being chased by 50 or so zombies. I was actually quite proud of myself when I managed to kill the Draugr Overlord who holds the Diamond Claw by luring him into a room with an oil urn and using my vomit to knock it down. As a matter of fact, that was probably my favorite kill in the run, seeing as I actually had to get pretty creative with it. Other than that, it's just more sprinting through Draugr-infested runes, so straight off to Sovngarde we go, I guess. At Sovngarde I fight soon, and guess what, he can one-shot me. I mean, I suppose that's to be expected, I'm only like level 3. Oh well, that's nothing the old back away and vomit trick won't fix, and so it's finally time for Alduin 2. You don't need me to tell you this, if you watched any Skyrim challenge run ever, you will probably hear the same thing, but if you could be Alduin 1, you could be Alduin 2. The other heroes do much more work than me, and I just have to land the last spit up on Alduin's face. Just like that soon gives me a taste of my own medicine by burping on me, sending me straight back to Skyrim. Paarthurnax and co then sing a funky little ditty, finishing the game, proving yes, you can beat Skyrim with vomit. It's just disgusting. You know, sometimes it really is the simpler runs that are the most fun. Like, I'd love to give you some long explanation on how this run was challenging and whatnot, but I really don't have too much to say. The vomit is exactly what it is on paper. You shoot a stream of poison that does a little bit of damage and looks really funny. Still, my monkey brain finds this amusing for some reason, which is enough for me to recommend it. Regardless, that's all I have time for in today's video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing. My name's Christian, but most people know me as aGhoul, and I'll see you in the next video.